All right. Let me just move a couple things around here. Okay, we're going to get started. Well, welcome to tonight's webinar. I'm really happy to be able to be a little guest speaker, I guess, for your guys' weekly call. And I love talking about this particular topic of overcoming limiting beliefs. And so thanks, Allison, for giving me this opportunity. You guys are so lucky to have Allison as your team leader. She is amazing, and I really, really like her. And I just really, really love working with her. Okay, so overcoming limiting beliefs. Now, this is something that is so applicable to everyone, and especially in doTERRA, what we're doing, when we're really running our own business, we are the people that get in our own way. We get in our own way, and we limit ourselves because of these beliefs that we have. And that's one of the beauties of doTERRA, is that we're confronted with ourselves time and time again, and so we have this opportunity to grow and improve ourselves. And sometimes that can be a little scary if we don't have any tools. So a little background, I guess, about me and where I was. So back in January, I was just kind of reflecting on the past year, on 2013, and thinking about how exciting the year had been, and just different momentum that had been created on my team. And I was thinking about Allison and the growth over there in Ohio and her team. And I was just really grateful and excited for the momentum that had been created, and seeing that these goals that people on my team are so passionate about were happening. These dreams were being reached. Now, at this particular time in January, I was actually on a vacation with my whole family, and it's a vacation that we had really, planned for and hoped for a long time. So it was really exciting that it was actually happening. And we had just a wonderful time. And when we came home, it was, really early on in January, and I was excited to just hit the ground running and just continue the momentum with doTERRA and have an even bigger and better 2014. Well, when I got home, what I thought would be feelings of enthusiasm and excitement turned into feelings of fear and wanting to hide and wanting to run away, and feeling really stuck. And I really didn't like that. I didn't want to feel that. I knew that self-sabotage was setting in. And I had felt this at different points before in the 2 years that I had been doing doTERRA, times when I would feel a lot of success. And then, after I would feel this success, I would feel it for a time, and then I would start to panic and want to hide. So instead of sabotaging or holding back, instead I just called my upline Jen. And you guys have probably heard Jen Oldham speak before, and she's wonderful. And I called her panicked. I think I was bawling, actually, and said, Jen, I don't know what's happening. This is all the great things that are happening, and all my, I know all my goals. I'm on track for them, and I'm so excited, but this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling scared. I'm wanting to run away. I'm feeling stuck. And so I'm quite frantic at this point, and she very calmly and confidently says, oh, Jess, well, you're upper limiting yourself. So what did she mean? She was referring to, let's see if I can click to the next slide for you. She was referring to this book called The Big Leap. The Big Leap is an amazing book. It's by Gay Hendricks, and it's one I know Jen has talked about in the Success Challenge, and it's one I highly recommend. The Big Leap, L-E-A-P, by Gay Hendricks. It's one of my top 5 books, maybe even top 3. And she was referring to the part in the book where he talks about how we upper limit ourselves. And a great way to think of it is a thermostat in a room. If a thermostat is set at 60 degrees, and then, that it starts to heat up in there and get up to 62, 63 degrees, the air is going to kick in and try to bring the temperature of the room back down to 60 degrees where it's comfortable. Well, we all have this inner thermostat that, we set early on in childhood. On a subconscious level, we set this and created this cap on how much joy and happiness and success we could experience in our life. So when we exceed that cap, when we start feeling this increase of happiness and joy and success, however we define that, when we start feeling this increase, then we do something to bring that level back down. We self-sabotage to bring that level back down to where we are most comfortable. Well, this is terrible, right? We don't want to do this. We do this on a subconscious level. So Jen also said, well, so you're upper limiting yourself, but do you know what your hidden barrier is? And she was referring to in this book these 4 hidden barriers that Gay Hendricks has identified, and he's worked with thousands of people, and he's kind of broken down these barriers. There's 4 of them, and says that every person has at least one, most people 2, some people 3, and that he's never met anyone with 4. But hey, there's always a chance that you could be one with 4. Anyway, so he talks about those, and why it's important to understand a hidden barrier is because we have these false beliefs, these barriers that really run our lives. And so when we're confronted with that barrier, then we upper limit ourselves. So I want to go through what these 4 barriers are, and so maybe you can find one that resonates with you, and then we can go from there. Before I get into those, it's really important to remember that these are based on fear, and they're completely false. They are a false belief based on fear, and so they're not a truth, even though we really kind of believe them as a truth. Okay, so the first one is a belief that we are fundamentally flawed, that something is just wrong with us at the core. And there's little mantras that we would tell ourselves if this is something that we if this was our hidden barrier. And the mantra would be, I cannot expand to my full creative genius because something is fundamentally wrong with me. Now, even more so than that, this is someone that has this belief. They would think that even if they were living their highest purpose on earth, being their highest and best self and living in their zone of genius, they would still mess it up. They would still find a way to mess it up because even their highest and best self is fundamentally flawed. And so what this person tells themselves is, hey, let's just play it safe, right? Play it safe. Take small risks. Don't take risks, because if you play it safe, then at least you fail small. If you stay small, you'll fail small. If you if you don't play it safe, if you put yourself out there, if you play big, you can fail big. So again, let's remember this is false, but that might be something that you definitely resonate with. All right. So the second one is a fear that you're being disloyal and abandoning your roots. Disloyalty and abandonment. And the mantra that goes with this, let's see, I've got my book over here. My whole book is marked up, and so rather than like retyping, I just look through here. And I put the little page number on the slide too, so if you're like, oh, that's my hidden barrier, then you can have kind of a quick reference to this to kind of learn more about it after this little call or webinar is over. But the mantra that this person tells themselves is, I cannot expand to my full success because it would cause me to end up all alone, be disloyal to my roots, and leave behind people from my past. So if you're saying yes, like, yeah, that's definitely something I believe, that's something that you think might be your hidden barrier, you'll really feel guilty. You're likely to feel guilty as you experience more and more success. And so you feel like success, you start to feel guilty, and so then that guilt puts the brakes on, and so you'll kind of stop that success. This is really common for people who maybe they grew up without money. Maybe money was really scarce growing up, and so they feel like now coming into a place where they have success and an increase of and an abundance of money, maybe they're being disloyal and abandoning how they were raised. That could also be the same for maybe people that grew up in a home, for the women out there, maybe they grew up in a home where their moms stayed at home and were stay-at-home moms and without any side jobs or anything. So maybe they're being disloyal in that way. Or maybe your mom worked full-time to provide for the family. So the idea of providing for the family and working less hours, that might be a feeling of abandonment. I like what it says on here too, just to have even a deeper insight, is that people with this, you follow breakthroughs of success with bouts of self-punishment, again, to just kind of step back from that fully enjoying that success. This is false. Again, that's why I've got that big red X through it. All right, hidden barrier number 3, more success brings a bigger burden. Now let me tell you the mantra that goes along with this one. I can't expand to my highest potential because I'd be an even bigger burden than I am now. Now, this is really common for people that already have a belief that they are a burden. You know, there's people that walk around just feeling like they are a burden. If there's any middle children out there, that's really common to take on this belief. If you're out there, you're not alone. I'm a middle child as well. And so sometimes we take on this idea that we don't exactly know where we fit in and we're a burden. So the idea that then we would be successful, if success is just an extension of who we are, of course, that's an even bigger burden. All right, then, oh yeah, and we want to remember again that that's false. Now, the fourth hidden barrier is the crime of outshining. Let's see here if I can turn to the right page. Okay, I must not expand to my full success, because if I did, I would outshine blank and make him or her look or feel bad. Now, this is, again, really common with people who are really gifted and talented, and in a family where they're not the only child. You know, on one hand, they get this message like, good job, shine, you're doing great, like excel, keep going forward. But then kind of like subliminally, this idea like, well, but hold back a little bit, or don't shine so much, or not so openly, because we don't want your brother to feel bad or your sister to feel bad. Someone pointed out to me that this is like if you've seen The Incredibles at the end with Dash, their son, who he's really speedy. That's like his little super natural talent and how fast he can go. And obviously with his name being Dash, makes sense. But he's racing at the end, and he's beating everyone in the race, and they're like, whoa, whoa, good job, good job. And then he's getting too far ahead, and they're saying, slow down, slow down, slow down. And then saying, just go for a second, just go for a second. And that's, that would fit right in with this, the crime of outshining, that we think it would be a crime. It's a fear of outshining. Now, people that have this, they turn to one of two solutions. Either they just turn down the volume on their genius. They turn down, their talents and where they excel, or they turn down the volume on their level of enjoyment. So they still will, shine and excel, but instead of really fully enjoying it, they turn down that level of how much they enjoy it, so then they can get pity from people instead of resentment. So did any of those resonate with you? Just take a minute and think through them, and think if any of them really resonated with you. Now, if you're looking through those or thinking about them, and you're saying no, don't worry. When I first read this book, I'd actually read the book one time before Jen asked me what my hidden barrier was and told me I was upper limiting myself. And the first time I read the book, I read through, and I honestly thought to myself as I read through, I thought, oh, none of those apply to me. Wow, I don't have any hidden barriers. That's so great. Like, I must just be this really evolved human being, right? Well, I will tell you, that's called denial. That is denial. It's not true. And when I was able to be honest and look back one more time, I was able to definitely identify, one main hidden barrier and maybe one or two others that really kind of fit in. But it's great to just identify. And so when we're ready to be out of that place of denial, maybe just kind of accept that some of these might be part of our lives, it's really powerful, because awareness in and of itself brings about healing. We're really able to identify and just have some clarity on things that maybe were running our lives before that we didn't realize. The great thing too is when we are aware of these hidden barriers, we can little by little start to recognize that they're false, and then they dissolve, and we can become freed from them. Now, I'd invite you to, actually, we'll go through these, and then I'll read my other little quote. But when we're going day to day, there are some little cues that we can pick up on to see, to be able to recognize if we're about to upper limit ourselves. And, oh, hang on just 1 second. Okay, so these are warning signs to let us know that we are upper limiting ourselves. And we want to be aware of these warning signs, because when we're upper limiting ourselves, that's a sign that our hidden barrier is, again, running our lives. So warning signs, I appreciate this. So on a day-to-day basis, we can kind of see ahead of time if we're starting to upper limit ourselves, and that hidden barrier is ruling us. So the first one is worrying. I am a worrywart. This is something that I work on. That's why I love balance so much. It helps me feel calm, and that's great. The balance really does help. But with worrying, If we're worrying about something that we can control or we can take action towards, then we need to take action. And if we're worrying about something that we can't do anything about, that we can't take action, then we need to let it go. This is a warning sign. This is letting us know that we're actually upper limiting ourselves. We're trying to put a cap on how much good stuff we can experience and feel in our lives. Criticism and blame. When we're living at our highest and best self, when we're living in our zone of genius, as Gay Hendricks refers to it in his book, we don't criticize and blame. We take full responsibility for our lives. And I was just reading in Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles. It's right there in the first chapter. And it's just so beautiful to realize that we are 100% responsible for what happens in our lives, for what our experience is and what we allow to happen. And so outside of that, if we're criticizing and blaming, again, it's a warning sign. We're trying to crimp that flow of positive energy. We're trying to stop the good energy that's going back and forth. So if we're criticizing others, blaming other people, that's a warning sign. Deflecting. This one's really interesting to me. And I think since I read the book, I'm a little bit more aware of it. And so it is kind of fascinating. And maybe you guys will be fascinated by it too. I think that it's sometimes people, I think it might be like a bad habit that people have learned, or I don't know if people necessarily mean it as deflection, but like take, for example, when someone compliments you, and instead of just accepting the compliment, we counter it with why that's not valid. And the example in the book is a guy gives a presentation and his friend comes up afterwards and says, "Oh, great job. That was wonderful." And he says, "Oh no, it would have been so much better if I would have had more time." Or he says something like that. Now, this guy, that may have been his true feelings, but he wouldn't even accept the compliment. And I think sometimes maybe we do that because we're trying to be humble, or I don't know why we do it, but we're really not accepting that positive energy our way. And he gives a little tip in there that's actually really been helpful for me to just kind of know what to say, because we don't need to be fake. If you felt like you needed more time, we want to express that. But he suggests that if someone gives you a compliment, we can say, "Thank you. I appreciate you saying that." Or, just simply say thanks. So you're receiving the positive energy. And then you can follow it up with, "I felt like I would have been able to do a better job if I had a little bit more time. I wanted more time to present or more time to prepare," or whatever. You can follow it up with what your thoughts are, but we want to accept. So if we're just deflecting and pushing that compliment or the good energy away from us, that's a warning sign. Squabbling. This is a funny one for me in retrospect. And whenever I talk to people about this live, everyone starts snickering, especially if they're there with a spouse, because the idea is if you're married and you picture like a wonderful date night, you've had a date night out without the kids and you held hands and strolled through the park and it was just wonderful and you just had this magical evening, and then you get home and then you're sitting on the couch and then all of a sudden you're bickering, right? One of you picks a fight. Well, squabbling is an indication that we're upper limiting ourselves. This is also applicable to, coworkers and friends and siblings, our children. This is something we can really watch, because I think it might happen more frequently than we're aware of. But squabbling, we're creating a situation where there's a fight or some type of a squabble to crimp the flow of positive energy. Getting sick or getting hurt. Now, again, these are things as we're working on our limiting beliefs, these hidden barriers that are ruling our lives. And when we're working on them as they pop up, we're wanting to be aware of these clues. And this is one that my husband and I specifically are really grateful that we realize this is a warning sign. And he said he's okay with me sharing this, but whenever we would commit to a new type of health goal or something, like a couple years ago, we were going to run a half marathon together. And so we started training, and he could run 13 miles up hills and it was no big deal. And then the week before the race, he got plantar fasciitis, which there was no reason why he should have. He'd been training for weeks and not overtraining and been really gradual. And then he got this injury and couldn't participate in the race. Another example is when we decided we were going to start, lifting weights together, working out in the mornings. Then he got all these injuries, and it was really almost funny. It was really bizarre. And he was working with a trainer online at the time who would send him a workout plan and a meal plan. And the guy's name is Big John. And my husband, Jeremy, was corresponding with Big John and saying, "Oh man, I think I need to take some time off." And he's like, I think I tore my bicep and my shoulder hurts and I did this to my wrist and then my knee. And Big John was just shocked. He's like, what are you doing? Like, no one gets injured like this. Anyway, but we had read this book, and so then Jeremy realized that he was upper limiting himself. He had realized that he had a belief that health was a burden, and he was able to then shift his mindset around that and realize that belief was false, and be able to experience, these health goals with free of injury. Getting sick, that happens if we're really excited for a trip or to go meet someone. All of a sudden we get to where we wanted to be, and then we get sick again because we have this thermostat where we don't think we can actually have that much enjoyment, that much happiness. And so we would get sick to just bring that level back down. Self-destructive behaviors, and there's a spectrum for this. I don't know if there's any fellow Netflix bingers out there. I rarely watch TV, and so I know it's definitely a warning sign for me that I'm upper limiting myself if I start having a desire to Netflix binge. So back in January, like I was telling you, when I knew self-sabotage was setting in, when I got back from my trip, just wanted to watch Netflix all night long. It's very out of character for me, and I'm glad now that I realize this is definitely a warning sign. So now when I feel that, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm upper limiting myself. Okay, those are all the warning signs. And so we just want to keep in mind these are things, and I've said it several times, but it's just a good phrase to remember: crimping the flow of positive energy. Sometimes we legitimately get sick. Sometimes there is, a squabble that comes up, a discussion that needs to be had. But are we doing things, on a subconscious level to really try to crimp that flow of positive energy? So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, I want to be able to leave you with some tools, because that's what's so amazing about gaining awareness is really powerful. And we can kind of start to see a little more clarity. Gay Hendricks refers to it as having a room that needs to be cleaned and turning the light on in that room. If you turn the light on, it's going to be a lot easier to clean up. But if you're leaving the light off and trying to clean up, it's not going to be as effective. So we've just kind of turned the lights on. But I want you to have some tools, and there's so many. You can just Google it, like tools for overcoming limiting beliefs. But this one I like. It's just 4 steps, and it's something you can do in your mind or writing it down. Journaling would probably be really powerful, but you can do that and write it out and just kind of start breaking down these false beliefs. So the first thing to overcoming is to ask yourself, is it true? Now, this is something, if you're asking yourself about a hidden barrier and you're saying, oh, I'm a burden, success is a burden. If that's your hidden barrier, then when you say, is it true? Then yourself is going to tell you, yes, it's true, right? Because we believe that our whole lives. And we love to, as humans, to draw a conclusion and then gather all this evidence. And I can't remember exactly how, I believe it's Malcolm Gladwell that talks about it in his book about how we gather evidence to prove our point further. So initially you're going to say, yes, it's true. Then you have to ask yourself, is it really true? And you might still say yes, but then you add the rest of the sentence, is it really true without a shadow of a doubt? That's when it starts to crack. Can you really be 100% sure without a shadow of a doubt that that belief is true? Can I really believe that I am a burden? Crack. Then we just experience a little crack in that belief. The second thing, what is the cost of this belief? We've probably never asked ourselves this before. We haven't thought to ask ourselves this before, but I think that's a really powerful question. What is this belief costing you? What is a belief that I'm a burden costing me? Wow, there's a big cost. I mean, and I'm not just talking about like a financial cost, but emotional, mentally. What about your relationships? What's this belief costing you? Let's get aware of how damaging this belief can be to ourselves. Number 3, this is such a powerful question. Who would I be without this belief? This is a freeing question. I love it. I love the freedom I experience when I think about this. Wow, who would I be? Think about that for a minute with your hidden barrier, that hopefully isn't hidden anymore. But wow, who would I be if I didn't believe that I was a burden anymore? That's an exciting thought. This is where journaling could be really powerful, to really just let your thoughts flow on paper. Then the last question is, this is my belief. Okay, so this is the initial belief that I'm a burden. But how can the opposite be just as true? So remember back in question 1, how I said we like to gather evidence. Well, if we can kind of look at a different conclusion, the opposite of that I'm not a burden, then we can start gathering evidence to prove that, and start seeing that maybe something that we believed so strongly and felt was a truth really does have some cracks in it, that it really is a false belief. And we can start to accept that. And when we accept that it's false, then we start to experience this freedom. And we have this ability to create beyond that hidden barrier that's been holding us back and running our lives. I want to point out, just in the Success Challenge book, there's this really powerful little picture. It looks just like this, where it talks about the different belief levels. And the idea within doTERRA is that our belief levels strongly correlate with our ability to advance in different ranks. And so I know that the print's kind of small in here, but you can look it up in your book too. And it's a really powerful thing to refer to. But especially if you're stuck at a rank and you're wanting to advance, you can see, okay, what's the next belief that I need to develop? But it talks about hitting the rank of elite. If you're struggling with that, increase your belief in the product. Learn more about the product. Be a user of the product. Be a product of the product. The next one, Premier. If you're struggling to hit Premier, if that's where you want to be and you feel stuck, you need to develop a stronger belief in the company and the opportunity that doTERRA has to offer. And that's something, come to the corporate events, get to convention, go to the different post-convention tours and different tours in your area to get to know, the owners and the people in doTERRA. The next one, Silver. We have people out there that's a great goal and something that they're striving towards. This is when you need to develop a belief in yourself. And beyond that, we have Gold and Platinum, a belief in your leaders. Diamond, a belief in your why. And Blue and Presidential, a belief in your ability to have an influence. If you're looking at these or wanting some places to start, also in the Success Challenge book, I don't think I have it on a slide. No, I don't. So they have a whole list of affirmations. Now, if a powerful thing we can do is try to monitor the way that we're talking to ourselves. What's our self-talk telling ourselves all day? I'm a firm believer that we can change your words, change your world. And so if we're saying these negative things to ourselves every day, that's going to hold us back. And so in the book, you can look it up at the table of contents. I don't have mine right in front of me, the Success Challenge booklet, but you can see a list of affirmations that it goes from the negative way of saying it, and it gives you a powerful positive way of saying it. I had someone once say that they realized that how negatively and how harshly they talk to themselves. If anyone else ever talked to them that way, they'd want to punch them in the face. But somehow it's okay if we talk to ourselves that way. No, it's really not. So I'd really encourage you to be aware of that and strive to make a change with positive affirmations and talk to ourselves, gently and positively. Now, sometimes when we start talking about these hidden barriers and the warning signs, then guess what? We start to upper limit ourselves. We start to experience fear. So if anybody's listening to this and you feel this tightness in your chest and you're feeling scared, or maybe like that you feel like you have too much to work on, just take a deep breath. I love what this doctor here said, that fear is excitement without the breath. So the energy itself is neutral, and it's just how we're interpreting it that makes it either manifest as fear or excitement. So just take a deep breath and breathe into it so we can feel excited about the growth and the changes that we're going to experience. We get to create new beliefs now, and something that I just heard from Tiffany Peterson is she really encouraged us to go from a place of judgment where we're judging ourselves to just an observer. So as you're monitoring your self-talk, as you're being aware of these hidden barriers and maybe times when you're starting to upper limit yourself, step away from being the judge of yourself and just observe. We're just watching. Gay Hendricks has this, it's almost funny, this part in his book where he says if he's working and then he notices an upper limit come up, he just kind of acknowledges it and waves to it and carries on his way. So it doesn't mean we have to do this, massive work and attack the upper limit. It's just kind of acknowledging it and deciding to move forward. We're just observing. We're not beating ourselves down for experiencing an upper limit. I really love doTERRA. Like I said in the beginning, I just am so grateful that we have this wonderful business that allows us to create freedom with our health. It helps other people. It helps us be able to teach people how to experience freedom with their health, and then also with finances, to be able to create financial freedom. I'm just so, so grateful for it. And I know, though, because it's such a big, beautiful thing we're a part of, that upper limiting ourselves, having these limiting beliefs, sabotaging ourselves is very common, because we are breaking through that thermostat that we have set for ourselves. And I do believe, though, that as we just continue to read books like this, read The Big Leap, and just increase our awareness, we can just keep moving forward, and we don't have to be limited and held back by all of this. It's such an awesome thing that we can grow ourselves and look inwards. And I really believe and know that as we grow ourselves, our organizations will grow, and we can look at ourselves and improve ourselves first, and that will help us become the leader and grow how we need to. With that, I will close. I'm not anticipating any questions tonight. If anybody has them, you can send them in really quick, but I'm not sure that I am equipped to answer any of them. But if you have any questions about any of the material or page numbers, I can help you with that. Oh, thanks, Allison. She just said something really nice. Okay, well, I hope everybody has a wonderful night, and thanks for listening in, and I'll post the recording or have Allison post it so you guys can have access to it later. Okay, have a great night.